Picture this. It's a gorgeous summer evening, you're chilling on the couch, the house is perfectly peaceful, and then suddenly, thud. Something absolutely massive slams into your window screen. You look up, and there's this creature with 6 ridiculously long legs and a body that looks way, way too big to be a mosquito. And to make matters worse, its flight pattern is just, well, it suggests it has absolutely no idea what it's doing. To scientists, they're part of the Tipulidae family, but to the rest of us, they just look like a terrifying glitch in reality. So in this explainer, we're going to unravel the mystery of this clumsy giant, because it is completely misunderstood by pretty much everyone who encounters it. So let me ask you, what's your immediate reaction when this so-called monster crashes into your living room? You're just peacefully scrolling on your phone, right? And suddenly this thing is flying erratically, bouncing off the lamps, hitting the curtains, and eventually launching itself right toward your face with all the grace of a broken helicopter. Honestly, most of us don't stop to scientifically identify the intruder. We're not calmly evaluating its taxonomy. Our brains just instantly scream, nope. We freeze, we panic, and we start mapping out the fastest escape route out of our own living room. And you know what? That is a completely understandable human instinct. When a giant mosquito-shaped creature flies at you, your immediate reaction is to declare war. We grab whatever's closest, bug spray, a rolled-up magazine, or, the classic heavy shoe. From a distance, this creature triggers a really deep evolutionary fear we have of vector-borne diseases. I mean, it looks exactly like the kind of terrifying insect that would inject a brand new, horrible pathogen right into our bloodstream. Decades of human history have taught us to be incredibly wary of flying, biting insects, so we naturally assume we've got to take this giant out before it takes us out. Okay, let's dive into this because this is where the entire horror story completely falls apart. The contrast between these two insects is absolutely staggering. Over on one side of the family tree, you've got the real mosquito. It's an incredibly precise, stealthy flyer equipped with a piercing proboscis, which is basically a highly specialized needle-like mouthpart designed specifically to extract blood. That is what makes it genuinely dangerous. But then on the other side, we have our giant window crasher, the cranefly. Look at the scientific reality here. The cranefly is a terribly clumsy pilot. And more importantly, it has dramatically reduced mouthparts. In fact, in many species, the adults don't have functional mouthparts at all. There's no needle, there's no vampire equipment, literally nothing. Now, a cranefly can easily grow to be 10 times larger than a normal mosquito. Its legs seem to just go on forever, which is actually a bizarre defense mechanism where they can easily shed a leg if a predator catches them. But despite that massive size multiplier, its threat level to humans is absolutely zero. It doesn't want your blood, it doesn't want to bite you, and frankly, as we're about to see, it usually doesn't even have the physical ability to eat a meal even if it wanted to. To really understand why, we have to look at the brutal evolutionary trade-off the cranefly made millions of years ago. By the time they reach their adult stage, which scientists call the imago, their digestive systems are radically simplified or, like we just mentioned, completely non-functional. They redirect almost 100% of their remaining stored energy away from digestion and survival and push it entirely toward one single goal, mating and reproduction. So that giant insect bouncing around your ceiling, it isn't a predator hunting you. It's basically just a flying emergency battery, running purely on whatever limited energy it managed to store up when it was a younger, ground-dwelling larva. And here's the kicker. That battery is almost completely empty right from the start. The very moment a cranefly emerges as an adult on day 1, a super fast biological countdown begins. By day 3, they are in a frantic search for a mate, driven by pure instinct and positive phototaxis. Now that's just a fancy scientific term meaning they are irresistibly drawn toward light sources. This is exactly why they blindly hurl themselves at your lamps and windows. Most adults only survive a few days, and even the absolute luckiest ones hit the end of their maximum lifespan around day 14. So it keeps crashing into your walls because it's racing against a ticking clock, desperately trying to complete the only mission evolution gave it. Which brings us to an incredibly poignant realization. When you're sprinting across your living room, waving an electric swatter in the air like some sort of tennis pro, you aren't fighting a monster. You're chasing an exhausted insect that's desperately trying to fall in love before it dies. It completely reframes the situation, doesn't it? It's somehow both slightly hilarious and undeniably tragic. You are basically the final boss standing in the way of a desperate star-crossed romance. But wait, I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now. You might have heard this generational rumor that you should never, ever kill these guys because they are the ultimate backyard protectors. I'm talking about the famous mosquito hawk myth. People in North America have called them this for generations. They assume that because craneflies look like giant mosquitoes, they must hunt and eat real mosquitoes to protect our yards. And hey, it sounds like an amazing, perfectly balanced story of nature solving nature's problems. Unfortunately, it's a total myth. Yeah, the dietary reality makes this myth physically impossible. Let's trace the food web for a second. Remember those reduced mouth parts we talked about earlier? An insect that literally doesn't even eat is definitely not out there hunting agile, evasive prey. While real mosquitoes are actively seeking out blood and nectar, the crane fly occupies the complete opposite end of the food chain. Because of their incredibly clumsy flying, they don't hunt, they get hunted. They are essentially just floating snacks for birds, spiders, bats, and even your household cat, who probably just treats them like a fun, accidental toy. They definitely don't control the mosquito population, they just reliably feed the local wildlife. So, you might be wondering, if their adult stage is shorts, utterly awkward, and mostly spent either crashing into windows or getting eaten, why do crane flies even exist? Well, the true scientific importance of the crane fly happens long before it ever grows wings. For months, they live as larvae, often called leather jackets, completely hidden out of sight underground in damp soil, leaf litter, and wetlands. It doesn't sound glamorous, I know, but this is exactly where they act as absolutely crucial ecosystem engineers, specifically serving as benthic detrivores. And this brilliantly illustrates how vital this larva stage is for a healthy, functioning environment. First, these detritivores feed aggressively on decaying leaves and dead organic debris. By breaking down this tough, fibrous material, they massively accelerate the natural decomposition process. This rapidly returns essential nitrogen and nutrients back into the soil, acting as a natural, highly efficient fertilizer for the surrounding plant life. And at the same time, as they wiggle and move through the earth, they create these tiny subterranean pathways that aerate the ground, which allows water and oxygen to penetrate deeper into the root systems. So way before they become the world's most confused flying adults, they're working around the clock to keep the soil healthy. Okay, so knowing how helpful they actually are to your yard, how should you handle them when they accidentally invade your home? Let's get into some practical takeaways. First off, absolutely no chemical warfare or frantic shoe throwing is required. Because crane flies are so strongly driven by that positive phototaxis we mentioned, you can easily just use their own biology against them. Simply turn off your indoor lights, open a window, and leave an outdoor porch light on. 9 times out of 10, the confused little romantic will just follow the brighter light right back outside, solving the problem for you without any fuss. And if they're being stubborn, the classic cup and piece of paper method takes, 30 seconds?
But here is the absolutely crucial point you should take away from this explainer. If you are suddenly seeing a massive number of crane flies bouncing around your property, they are trying to tell you something really important about your local microbiome. Let's contrast our clumsy Tipalidae family with the Culicidae family, the true mosquitoes. Crane fly larvae require lots and lots of moisture to survive. We're talking heavily wet soil, rotting leaf piles, poor drainage around your foundation, or maybe clogged gutters.
And that leads us to the real scientific climax of our explainer. The crane flies themselves are not dangerous in the slightest, but those exact same damp, poorly drained conditions that allow crane flies to thrive, that is the absolute ideal breeding habitat for the actual, true mosquitoes that carry diseases. The crane fly isn't the problem, it's the messenger warning you about real mosquitoes. They're a harmless, accidental alarm system, literally telling you to go clean your gutters, flip over those stagnant water buckets, and fix your drainage before the real threat arrives.
You know, nature is so full of creatures that look absolutely terrifying right up until you take the time to learn the science behind what they're actually doing. The crane fly is a mouthless romantic, a terrible pilot, a vital soil engineer, and easily one of nature's most unfairly judged insects. So I'll leave you with this. The next time a giant, clumsy, six-legged creature crashes into your window on a quiet summer night, will you see a monster? Or will you see a misunderstood messenger? Keep that in mind and never stop questioning what you see